Okay, this is going to be kind of a humor video, kind of stupid. I'm doing it because, honestly, had a giggle fit trying to write it. Never did it. Well, I didn't do it completely. Do you carry a product that will work with my unit? Do you have an existing unit, but you want it taller? Bigger? My unit is 3/8 inch thick, rather than your fat half-inch boots. Wire shelving rack. IP, NSF, or NSW, NSFW, Industrial Post National Sanitation Foundation Non-Standard. NSFW, no, it's NSF. National Sanitation Foundation, that determines how to keep food handling areas clean, came up with a standard for industrial post diameters and stuff to make shelving. Industrial post. I couldn't stop giggling. Anyway, I'm not going to giggle, obviously, because it's not funny anymore. Shut up. Anyway, wire shelving is used because you can keep it clean, and you can actually put it in the oven, bake it to kill off bacteria. And it has very little surface area touching things. That's why they use it. Now, shelves run a 1/4 inch smaller than actual size listed. Oh, where have I heard this before? So this is based on the outer diameter or the inner diameter. Pipe schedules. If it says it's 1 inch, it's going to be a 1 1/4 inch actual outside diameter. It's based on only the outside diameter. Combining multiple brands as the size will not fit properly. So say the companies that each choose a slightly different standard so that they're not compatible. Source, when they list it, is actually the pipe thickness of source material, the gauge material, that's sheet metal that's rolled and then welded and then crimped or whatever. That's why they call it source material, to make the pipe out of, because they make it out of flat material that's put through a machine that does this, and it cold forms it. Most of the time it's not welded. Some of the time it is. Some of the time it makes really good material. Now, I was looking this up, totally unrelated subject, but the number of jokes that came up, just again, you're not giggling. Anyway, let's go on with it. Numbered on 1 inch increments from the top to the bottom, accurately. So they become really handy as measuring poles. I've used them for that. Also, you can use them as standards for all sorts of things. Very interesting. And the pipe diameter and thickness and all that is made to hold up weight. They're rated in thousands of pounds of compression strength. Bending force on them, I know from experience, depending on where you get the pipe from, you can pretty much use one for a hammer. So this is pretty hardcore metal. No, I'm not talking about using it for any kind of interesting thing for, throwing objects downrange X number of, miles an hour or whatever. But it is kind of interesting to look up the standard, because this was made literally because somebody needed to come up with some sort of standard to make nearly clean room grade equipment. I mean, it's for food quality. But the surface is usually chrome. Chrome and some other metals make it to where bacteria doesn't like living there. It's just a little bit less friendly. But anyway, 0.75 or 7/8 inch pole diameters versus actual pole thicknesses. And when you look this up, it's really hard to find. Like everything else involving these standards, people are not tight-lipped about it. It's that they change them every once in a while because they need to. One of the sites said it best. We came up with this pole design, we came up with a standard, found out it was not strong enough to handle most of our customers, so we increased it by literally doubling the intensity of it, and we're completely they said, give us back the old pipe, we'll melt it down and make new ones. They changed the standard because they had to. It wasn't to make it to where stuff wouldn't work. They were willing to trade pieces out for free, just because they didn't want to have any liability for making low-quality product. It evolved. 1 inch poles may have a 1 millimeter, 1.2 millimeter, or 1.4 millimeter thickness. That means it's based on 1, 1.2, or 1.4 millimeter thick sheet metal, or half that diameter rolled twice and then run through a die to compress it, or fuse it under mechanical pressure, and then they plated it afterwards. The outside plating actually seals it all up. Yeah, it could be mild metal, and they run it through a heat treatment, harden it, and then they plate it. You learn something new every day. 3/4 inch poles may have a 1, 1.2 either pole thickness. Obviously, if you're not aware of this, they switched over to the 1.2 millimeter minimum diameter because it's the one common between them. because 7/8 inch poles may have 1.2 or 1 millimeter pole thickness. So 1 millimeter, 1.2, and 1.4. And I guess they stopped using 1 millimeter for anything big. Okay, now that's different companies did different things. Other companies did another method. They ignored their standard and just made it bigger on the outside and said, give us all the old equipment back. Or they made it match somebody else's standard and just did that, even though they say it may not work. Many retailers are starting to sell wire racks with 1-inch post thicknesses of only 1 millimeter. So we're switching to 1.2 as our minimum standard. 1 millimeter and 1.2 were standards, and then they switched up to 1.4 for 1-inch poles. That's the only difference. Now, this is from the outside. What's funny is you find people in discussion forums screaming about the standards change. Now, obviously, if you're not aware of this, 0.75 inch, 3/4 inch poles with a 1-inch diameter on the outside, that's 0.75 minus a certain amount, that reduces it down. If you have a 1-inch pole, if you have a 1-inch pole and the minimum diameter here, that would actually equal the diameter that would be useful for, yeah, okay, fine. You could use this to make a 12-gauge shotgun or whatever. But and also, yeah, for the 1/2-inch one or the 3/8 inch, 7/8, one of the other ones, it has different diameters. But you can actually sit there and do the math and figure out the diameters, whatever. But the fun part about this was watching all of the forums talking about this. Plastic tapered split sieve lock sets for 3/4, 7/8, and 1-inch pole diameters. And again, the wire shelving, blah, 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 it may be a 1/4 of an inch smaller than the actual size listed. So if it says it's 1-inch pole, it's probably 3/4. Okay, for the outside or something. And then you look it up and a bunch of people are like, no, it actually is 1 inch. Because the company decided to make real 1-inch poles that were exactly the wrong size. So they came up with that standard. Anyway, these grab into the little dig-ins. Push-on type pole inserts for poles that are not threaded for feet or casters. They have threading in the bottom of them. Or they don't. You can add on. This was for breaking the restrictions on other people's products, of course. Posts that are threaded at the ends can take a pole connector sold by its diameter or a screw-in thread bottom post insert to attach casters. Okay. Now, here we go. Pole leveler. That's the thing at the bottom that makes it to where you can screw it in and screw it out to jack it up and down. It's like the thing on the bottom of a chair leg. They're sold in diameters as well. 1-inch levelers have a 3/8 inch bolt hole. It's actually the standard, so it's less than 1/2 inch inside of it. 7/8 ones use a 0.875 inch leveler and a 3/8 inch bolt. Again, 5/16 bolt, a little bit over, well, again, is used for the 3/4 inch, 0.75 inch leveler. Now we're getting numbers that don't seem to make sense, but then you look at it, it's like, yeah, it's about right. Others use 1/4 inch bolt sizes. So they have 1/4, 3/16, and 3/8 inch. So they had to use standards for bolts, nuts, and screws because when you look at the diagrams, I'll include a picture in the thumbnail. They had to use bolts and nuts that they got off the shelf at some hardware store, and then they just put them into the mold with the plastic parts. So they ended up using some standard parts. Industrial Post, IP standards for wire shelf posting. This is where it came from. NSF, certified, National Sanitation Foundation's independent and accredited organization to protect and improve global health, human health, in developing standards and testing products for safety through annual unannounced inspections. Once a year they inspect the places that make it and the places that use it. Tubing differs from pipe size in its classifications. Its actual outside diameter, OD, designates tubing. Thus, a 5-inch tubing has an outer diameter of 5/8 inch, and the snozberries taste like snozberries. And then you look it up and nobody uses that, because it's always a 1/4 inch bigger or 1/4 inch smaller. Standards. And of course, there's a reasoning behind all of this. Now I'll do the reveal for the video. Why was I looking it up? I got stuck like everybody else does in a rabbit hole trying to figure out what are the actual diameters of these things. Now I want to point out something real simple here. On every one of the pages, they had a facts section that said, what are the dimensions for your tubing? And the answer was, we use industry standard, blah, blah, blah. Instead of, this is what I call aggressive stupidity, or not aggressive stupidity. The term I use is unnecessary make work through aggressive ignorance. If someone asks you a really simple, I'm going to do a real simple one, like, I have a flashlight here. How many batteries is in the flashlight? It's an industry standard flashlight, blah, 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 blah. How many batteries? 2. It's a fucking number. Just answer the question. The amount of work these companies went through to avoid answering a straight question with a straight answer is amazing. It's mind-boggling. And I found it terrifying that somebody would go through that much effort to avoid answering a straight question like that. It's amazing. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. And I ran into the same thing with industry standards for engineers for pipes, tubing, which are supposed to be totally different, but they use the same standards anyway because they just do that. Gun standards that don't exist. The only thing that are standard is that there aren't any. Everybody has standards are nice. Everybody has one of their own that everybody has to try to adapt to. So when people complain about Americans using a bunch of standards that don't match, when companies in Europe lie about the millimeter size for everything, joke. I'm having a lot of fun with this. That's why I use kilometers. It sounds more impressive, or whatever. 45 degrees doesn't sound as impressive as the real temperature. 22 degrees Celsius is 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Something like that, right? Yeah. Hey, it makes more sense. It's from freezing to boiling. That's actually useful. Don't look up how we ended up with Fahrenheit. It really does not make any damn sense. I'm sorry. It really does not. I'm ashamed of it. But anyway, I just wanted to bring up this about wire shelving standards, because some people may have noticed on some of my channels that I rant about the lack of standards or any kind of consistency. So I'm going to do it again. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And yeah, part of that was me trying to look up the pipe standards so that maybe I could use them for something. Like, it's like looking up bicycle tubing standards. It's obviously associated with me wanting to make these standards available to you. But all I found was a giant brick wall. And in case you're curious, I never got a straight answer out of any of them. I even emailed them, and they avoided it. That amount of effort, that aggressive level of, I'm not going to answer a straight question with a straight answer, even though it gets asked to me every fucking day. I'm going to drive myself batshit insane. That is amazing to me. The first thing on the website I would build for these people, here are the diameters for the pipe. The thread pitch, everything. It'll be the first page. And then at the bottom, if you want to buy something from us, click here. But don't ask us stupid questions when we've already answered them. Have a nice day. I used to have a fact like that at the doorway to my shop. It made my life so much better. It doesn't encourage people to buy your stuff. It makes them think you're stupid when you don't answer straight questions like that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.